So they're paying people back their fines that they paid, right? Okay, they're paying people back for possession charges, right? Right? Are you listening to me? In the state of Washington, okay? But they've terminated the rights of hundreds of parents for the same exact fucking reason, okay? So they legalized possession and made it retroactive, right? So back to 40 years ago, right? But they forgot that they also terminated the rights of hundreds of parents for the possibility of doing drugs, okay? That's what they did under sealed cases in the Supreme Court of Washington State. Did you know that? Yeah, I bet you didn't know, huh? All those drugs everybody's doing and it's legal and all that stuff. They terminate parents' rights, but only certain parents that look a certain way. So if they don't have brown eyes, the rights are terminated for drug use. Yes. Pretty much, yes, that's the way it is. I'm sure they terminate other people's rights, but for drug use, they only do this to Caucasian parents that don't have brown eyes. Sorry. Because they're not allowed to do it to anybody else. There's laws that protect everybody else, pretty much. I mean, there's not laws that protect brown-eyed white people, but people that don't have brown eyes are the ones who are targeted by DCYF. And DCYF also hires them to work for them and do their dirty work. So basically, they're still paying people back right now for, even though they recriminalized whatever possession, they are still paying people back their fines, and they're still vacating the charges. But they're not doing anything for the parents whose rights they terminated because of suspected drug use or drug use. They're not doing anything about that. Not a single fucking thing. This is how sick these people are and mentally disturbed. Not only that, but they were never supposed to take these kids from day one. Okay? They can't take anybody's kids. Let me show you just exactly how fucking stupid these people are, okay? Alright, I gotta go down here because it's down here. Because we're in juvenile court, right? So they're pretending they have jurisdiction over parents in juvenile court. That's what they do. They pretend, because they don't have jurisdiction over parents. But here's where it gets ugly. I'm going to show you. Shelter care. Boom. This is what they use to take children from actual people, and they're not supposed to be doing it. And I'll tell you why, but here's the... let's see if I can do this. Okay, because it says right there. Look. Okay, I can't make it bigger. But it says right there. They can only take the child into custody, not from the parent's custody. They can't take physical custody of the child, and physical custody is required to take in order to remove or seize a child. Period. Okay, they can only take a child in that's abandoned. That's why it says to take child into custody, not from the parent's custody. Okay, but they use these all the time to remove children from the parent's custody, and they pretend that like they're allowed to, and they just do it. And they can't do it because it's not a warrant, okay? Because a warrant is defined over here in 26.27. A warrant is defined, and physical custody is defined. Right here. Warrant. They're not using warrants, they're using dependency petitions. And physical custody. They're using shelter care hearing orders and dependency petitions to remove children from the custody of their parents when physical custody is defined and a warrant is defined in the Uniform Child Custody Act. They are not citing these statutes right here to remove these children. They are not using warrants, which is proper because it says right here dependency and termination is also included in these hearings. Boom. Dependency. Boom. So they're supposed to be using a warrant to take physical custody of a child. If dependency and termination is described there, then yes, they're supposed to be using a warrant. And they're not using a warrant because guess what? They have to use a dependency petition in order to terminate that parent's rights. They have to allege that the child is abandoned in order to terminate that parent's rights, okay? So that's their goal from day one, is to terminate that parent's rights. But they're using dependency petitions which are not supposed to be used to take physical custody of a child. Like I said, a warrant is supposed to be used. They're not using, that's why they can't kick down your door. That's why, because they're not using warrants. That's why they always knock, because they're not using warrants. They're manipulating parents into signing their rights away, pretty much. Because when a parent signs a dependency petition, they're agreeing to abandon their child with the state. And it only defines an abandoned child under this section of law, and they know that. These attorneys know that this section of law was not made to rehabilitate parents. It was made for abandoned juveniles. It only defines an abandoned child. Look, abandoned. That's it. They can't do anything else under this section. It defines an abandoned child, and the child has to be abandoned for 3 months. It says so right here. They've been taking kids at birth. Babies, newborn babies. How is the baby abandoned for 3 months if... How's the baby abandoned if they were just born? Okay? These DCYF employees belong in prison. Okay? They can't do that. It says abandoned right here. This section of law does not define an abused or neglected child. An abused or neglected child is defined in a completely different chapter, and it says that right here. Is abused or neglected as defined under RCW 26.44. This is not 26.44. It's 1334. See? They're not using the right laws. They can't use laws for abandoned kids on kids that were never abandoned. And that's what they've been doing for like 20 plus years and getting away with it. They count on these parents being traumatized. They count on the public knowing that they're so, serious, and that they just snatch kids left and right, that they just keep doing it. They just get away with it. And that trauma that these parents go through blinds them for years. I mean, years. They could go through their entire life and never realize that these laws exist because these dumbass lawyers, and then they pretend they're allowed to appeal. They pretend they're allowed to have a trial against parents. Parents aren't defendants. The child is the defendant. It says right here. There's no fucking parents. This isn't parent court. It's juvenile court. What the fuck? Why are we in juvenile court? What the fuck is wrong with these people? They're tricking parents out of custody of their children, okay? This is serious. Like, you don't do that, okay? You think that everybody's just not ever going to figure it out and not know and just shut up and stay quiet? Why the fuck would anybody do that? I'm telling the fucking world what you guys are doing. They're fucking kidnapping predator perverts, okay? To little tiny kids. That's what they like to do. They like to steal little tiny kids. That's what they get off on. They love doing it. And they love doing it to basically parents that don't have brown eyes. If one or the other parent doesn't have brown eyes, that parent's rights will be terminated. Period. And most of them, yes, are African American. And they love their fucking jobs. They absolutely fucking love it. Okay? And if they're not, then they have blue eyes themselves. I just wanted to show you another fact about this law is right here. It says if there is no person or agency having the right to physical custody of the child available, that means that nobody can have physical custody of the child. Period. Okay. So, but what they've been doing also is they've been using these forms and basically using option C. Oh wait, where are we? No, option C is in the dependency. Anyway, they've been using juvenile dependency basically to pretend like parents aren't good enough to be called a parent. So how they do that is, where did dependency just go? Lost it now. Okay, here's JU. Okay, where's it at? There's go, dependency. Okay, so dependency, petition. We'll just go to petition first because they just updated it. Let's see what it says now. They put a bunch of fucking dumb shit in there trying to pretend like they got power. They don't got fucking power, dude. You have to sign the order first because there's no trial, so there's no fucking way. No way. Okay, so let's see what else there. Oh, here, dependency on based on. All right, so check this out. There's no or. There's no or after right here. Boom. There's no or after that. That or right there, when they place that fucking or there, they're breaking the fucking law. These dumbass judges in the Supreme Court of Washington State, they're breaking the fucking law. Okay? You cannot add words to the law. Okay? No, you can't. Okay, I had to make it bigger. Okay, you can't add words to the law. And that's what these people are doing. There is no or after option B in this law. And I can show you right now because I think I'm on it. No, I'm not. I was on it. Hold on. Okay, I can show you right here. There's no or after this law. After this number. Let me get it bigger. Yeah, it's pretty big. Alright, so as you can see, dependent child, this is the definition of a dependent child. Okay, the or doesn't come until after option D. Right there, see? That's okay. Now this is what their forms say right here. We're gonna just go right here. Dependency. The child should be declared dependent, but see, it says RCW 13340306, and it goes on, and then it adds an or right there. There is no fucking or there. Okay, there's no or until after option D, and they don't even show option D on here. Okay, the legislator just moved the or. So how do they pretend like they're making their, and this is how they try to confuse people. Like, really, parents believe that they're allowed to do this because they don't see the actual law. And the lawyers know what the actual law says because they're lawyers, and they have to, they're taught in law school to read everything on the page. So they know that there's not an or there. They know that. They know that it has to be applied together because it says it everywhere in the law that it has to be applied together. Even under RCW 1334-130, it says it has to be applied together. I'll show you. Right here, it says it has been proven by a preponderance of evidence that the child is dependent within the meaning of RCW 1334-030. That means that entire section defines an abandoned child. That's what that means. That means the child has to be abandoned because they all have to be applied together, because it would say, basically the specific statute. It means the whole section applies to an abandoned child. Because if it didn't mean that, then it would say something like, because an abused or neglected child is defined under a completely different section of law. It's defined under 26.44. So a dependent child is abused or neglected. It has to be because it's abandoned. So it's considered abused or neglected. That's what it's considered, and that's what it has to be applied together. The fact that there's an or there at all makes it separates it, okay? And they can't separate it in the form and then not in the law. Sorry, judges can't write the law. That's not allowed. But this is why what they do is they use option C right here. The child has no parent right here. They use that, and they say that the parent's not good enough to be called a parent. So until they're good enough to be called a parent, they can't have their kids. And then they make up whatever reason they want to make up to, like, they'll say, oh, well, you're not good enough because you eat this kind of cereal or whatever. I swear. And then they'll keep the kid for however long they feel like. They play sick ass games with these people. I swear to God they do. And many parents are so traumatized just by the removal itself, they just do whatever CPS says. CPS has no jurisdiction over these parents to tell them what to do. They can't tell them to do shit. Okay? It would be called parent court if that were the case. They're not being charged with a crime. They can't tell them to do shit. If they can't put them in jail, they can't tell these parents to do shit. But they've been doing it for like 20 years and getting away with it. Because they're fucking pervert predators, that's why. I mean, it's a dependency petition. That's it. They're not alleging anything but dependency. Dependency is not a bad thing. All kids are dependent, really. Because a kid can't be alone, so they're dependent. Duh. It used to be called a ward of the state. But now they call it dependency. And the case is in the child's name. That means there's no parent there. That's what that means. Of course they have to say who the parents are, because the parents are the parents of that child. But the fact that they have to notify the parents just tells you right there that they're not supposed to be taking kids from the parent. Because they wouldn't say that they had to notify the parent. If they were taking the child from the parent, they would already be notified. It's like shit like that. It takes a while to kind of decipher exactly what is going on, but once you do, you're gonna flip the fuck out. These people aren't supposed to be doing anything that they're doing. They're fucking criminals and they belong in prison. And especially these attorneys right here, they really belong in fucking prison. Big time. Because they're helping DCYF do everything that they're doing. And they love their jobs, okay? And they're selectively picking which parents to target by eye color. They're fucking sick.
How stupid am I? I took all of her children multiple times. 2 of them were raped, and she even told me that one of them would be raped before it happened, and I still left her daughter there. I refused to brush their hair to the point of completely falling out. I forced her 14-year-old out of her life in 2014 and into an illegal adoption under laws made for abandoned children. I hate her so much. She is all I think about 24 hours per day, and all I focus my entire career on. I am so fucking dumb that I have been keeping her completely away from both of her children for 2 years. No contact whatsoever. That is how much I hate her and her children. All because she figured out my secret that I hire and terrorize people without brown eyes and have been selling their children for many years. That is why all of the people talking to her on this channel have blue eyes, because they are fucking dumbass blue-eyed robots and will do everything I fucking say. They actually believe I like them. Sorry, that is not even fucking physically possible. I believe that keeping her away from her children for many years will make her take this channel down. That is how fucking stupid I truly am. These dumb white people will do anything I say, even torture kids. It's so fucking fun, I swear. I tell all my friends she is so dangerous, but I never do this to black people, like, ever. If anyone is dangerous, it is me. I am a fucking predator of little tiny kids.